I saw this interesting post the other day on the r/science subreddit. In 2020, Nature endorsed Joe Biden in the U.S. presidential election. A survey finds that viewing the endorsement did not change people's views of the candidates, but caused some to lose confidence in Nature and in U.S. scientists generally. Wow, that seems really bad. I guess Nature never should have made that endorsement, huh? As many people pointed out in the comments, you lose trust trying to step outside of what you're designed to do. Nature is a scientific publication. We probably see political insight as confusing. And when people are reading about something completely unrelated to politics and it gets wedged in anyways, it tends to turn people's opinions worse on whatever matter is brought in. And it's a bit worrying for non-political entities making endorsements for one party leader or the other. And science needs to be as independent as possible from politics. You know, that is just so true. Science shouldn't touch anything political. That's why real scientists only study the following list of completely apolitical topics: genetics, critical medical research and vaccine development, nutrition, human reproduction, epidemiology, atmospheric science, neurology, mechanical engineering, behavioral psychology. Now, if you just listen to these videos without watching them, I should mention that each of the things I just mentioned were accompanied with evidence of Republican lawmakers attacking scientists for studying them. And as always, you can find links to all of my sources in the full transcript, which I link below over on my Patreon. In other words, Republican politicians politicize those fields of study constantly. And so according to many people, once these topics become political, they're now no longer valid topics for scientists to discuss. But that is not the way to make progress. We cannot cede ground to anti-science politicians backed up by the gargantuan misinformation machine that is Fox News and its ilk, which have been working hard for years to convince their credulous adherents to be incurious at best and actively opposed to reality at worst. That's why I personally am glad that Nature chose to endorse a political candidate for the first time in 2020, despite what this paper found. Every example I just listed of a politician opposing research is an example of one party politicizing science. And that party is, of course, the Republican Party. Does that mean the Democrats have been great for science? No. But if the houses in your neighborhood keep catching on fire, there's a difference between the firefighters who could be working harder and the gang of arsonists roaming the streets unchecked. Trump escalated this problem dramatically during his first term in office. In fact, to make this video short, I'll just go over some of the things he did in the first 6 months. He signed 13 congressional resolutions rolling back science-based protections, including safe drinking water standards and safeguards to prevent worker exposure to harmful chemicals. His administration misrepresented climate science, removed climate-related content from several government communications, and proposed sharp reductions in climate research. They delayed or repealed several science-based pollution standards designed to protect public health, including protections against mercury, air toxins, and coal wastewater, without replacing them with new scientifically defensible standards. They also, if you'll recall, altered or deleted scientific language on official government websites, many of which referred to climate change. They made it more difficult for government scientists to speak publicly about their work, as well as about misconduct within an agency. They restricted communication with Congress. They placed vague gag orders on agency staff. They failed to affirm the ability of scientists to share their expertise publicly. They also appointed anti-science zealots to scientific leadership positions, like a lobbyist who disagreed with the scientific consensus on global warming to head up the Environmental Protection Agency. And all of that was just the first 6 months, long before COVID, when Trump's complete bungling of the pandemic and his baseless promotion of quack remedies directly led to the deaths of more than 333,000 Americans by the end of 2020. So, For the election of 2020, you had that guy on one side holding a gas can and a Bic lighter, and on the other side, you had Joe Biden standing there with a hose hooked up to a fire hydrant. Now, don't get it mixed up. Biden is a conservative firefighter. He doesn't want to waste any water putting out those fires if he doesn't have to. But he promises he's not going to set any new ones. So, yeah, obviously, anyone who cares about houses burning down, science, should endorse Biden over Trump in that situation. And yes, even if Biden ended up doing stupid anti-science stuff like declaring the pandemic over just because he wanted it to be over, in the situation of Trump versus Biden, when it came to science, there's really no argument there. Okay, so what about this study that found, according to its own abstract, political endorsements by scientific journals can undermine and polarize public confidence in the endorsing journals and the scientific community? Well, that's not really what they found. So let's talk about it. A political economist at Stanford gave out surveys to about 4,000 people who first described their political beliefs, who they supported in 2020, and how they felt about the journal Nature. Then half of them read a summary of Nature's endorsement of Biden, while the other half read Nature's announcement of a website redesign. Then they were asked which candidate they supported and questions about their trust in nature and in scientists in general. Most of the respondents were existing Biden supporters, over 50%. They showed no statistically significant change in attitude after reading that endorsement. About a third of the respondents were Trump supporters, and reading the endorsements didn't make them like Biden more. It just made them trust nature and scientists in general less. Now, I'm not saying that this research is useless, but the conclusion should not be surprising in any way. For a start, while the journal Nature may be one of only 2 scientific journals that the average non-scientist can name, that doesn't mean that Nature is targeted at the average non-scientist. They're not. That endorsement wasn't necessarily for the layperson, but for the scientists. You know, the people who actually have the ability to bypass their paywall and read their articles. Second of all, just because a layperson has heard of Nature, it doesn't mean that they have a well-established opinion of it. I've been seeing this problem crop up a lot lately in research. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but there's this thing where a vaguely positive opinion about something people don't really know about is confused with a well-considered position. Here's a hypothesis I'd love to see tested. Let's take 1,200 Trump supporters and ask them how they feel about Nature. Then let's show them a simplified version of a paper published in Nature that says climate change is real, caused by humans, and in need of immediate legislation to fix it. My hypothesis is that most of them will not change their minds about climate change, but they will change their minds about how much they trust nature. Because science has already been politicized for these people. These people are not inquisitive. They are not open to changing their mind based on facts. Literally, just yesterday, I was speaking with a Trump supporter who confused communism and socialism. So I sent him, with no extraneous commentary, an unbiased overview of the differences between those two political philosophies, which are quite severe, and the difference between the countries that employ them. He immediately replied, potato, potato. He didn't even read it. You know, the truth does not matter to these people because Tucker Carlson already told them something and they've built their entire personalities around it. They are, for the most part, unreachable by facts alone. It's not impossible to change their minds, but we absolutely will not find a statistically significant result by throwing reality at them and seeing if they immediately change their minds about anything that is even tangentially related to their politics. And their politics are anything that the talking heads tell them on Fox and Newsmax. So no, I don't think that Trump supporters were going to be swayed by a scientific journal targeted at scientists pointing out that Trump was demonstrably anti-science while Biden was at least paying lip service to being pro-science. I don't think that was the point, and I don't think that the MAGA crowd's sudden distrust of scientists following their reading of a summary of an editorial is true or alarming. I do think the same thing that I and many other science communicators have been thinking for decades. When scientists and their institutions remain silent on matters that they deem too political, they cede that entire debate to the science deniers. You can't just not have an opinion on this. Like, not speaking up, that is a choice, just as much as speaking up is a choice. People who understand science and who support the continued funding of science and who want our society to be built upon a rational scientific understanding of the world, we absolutely must speak up in defense of those ideals, or else we risk Republicans continuing to spread ignorance and fear by politicizing everything that goes against their own interests. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.